So we talked about how yarn is made, how it's made through the twisting of fiber into a single filament. And now let's talk about how that twisting of the yarn affects how the fabric it creates will act, how it will behave. Different yarn effects or different yarn twists will have different influences on fabrics created from it. First, let's talk about the movement of the fabric. So the movement of the fabric is simply how it moves. Fabric will move either via wind or most often in fashion by the movement of our own bodies, whether we're walking or twisting or whatever else. Fabric has all different types of movement, as you know, we have many different characteristics for all the different types of fabrics that we have. But generally, we're going to have two ends of the spectrum. And the two ends of the spectrum are shown here in these little animations. On the left, we see a loose and flowing fabric, something that is soft and limp, that will not really hold its shape, can flutter, bounce, and create smaller, looser, liquidy drapes. Here we can see on the left a fabric that I would probably let's call this a georgette. It looks very much like a georgette. Georgette is very soft and flowing. Georgette is also a little bit sheer, but we'll get into that later. That's not really related to yarn twists. But notice the way it's moving, the way it's fluttering in this little breeze. See how the drapes are moving and changing shape, and the overall shapes when it is folding or bunching up are soft and round, how it clings to the shape of the face a little bit easier, and sort of falls down in a very fluid manner. Those are all very characteristic of what a georgette or a limp or loose or flowing fabric. On the other side, we have stiff fabrics. Now this girl is wearing a tutu. Tutus are famously made out of tulle, easy to remember. Tulle, T-U-L-L-E, tutu, T-U-T-U. So tulle, tutu, easy to remember, hopefully. This is the other end of the spectrum. Now noticeably, these two fabrics are both fairly lightweight. So they're thin. So the only difference, they're also semi-sheer. They're both semi-sheer. So the main difference in these two fabrics is not in their weight. Both are often made out of silk, or can be made out of silk. The other alternative would be a synthetic. Lightweight, breezy, so on and so forth. So the main difference between these two is this is loose and flowing and limp. Oop, I'm sorry about that. And this is stiff, hard. It has a lot more volume. It doesn't fall close to the body. It tends to stand away from the body. It can keep a shape. It doesn't sort of flutter. It keeps its shape. When it's bunched up, it has hard, sharp angles. And a lot of times this tulle fabric, because of its stiffness but still lightweight capabilities, is used as sort of understructure for other clothing. So if I want to make a softer fabric poof out, or I want to make poofy shoulders on something, gravity-defying shapes, a lot of times that tulle is used as a structural element underneath other types of fabric. Okay, in any sense, how tightly a yarn is twisted will influence how the fabric made from that yarn will move. Some fabrics, again, are soft and limp like on the left, and others are stiff like on the right, and the rest are everywhere in between. Tightly twisted yarns or high twist yarns usually create stiff fabrics, fabrics that hold shape, create volume, and fold into sharp corners. Loosely twisted or low twist yarns create limp, flowing fabrics that move easily, don't keep a prescribed shape, and drape fluidly and fold into rounded corners. Yarn twists can also affect whether or not a fabric pills. So what is a pill? I'm sure you have seen this before on a lot of times the inside of your hoodies get very pilly. Any sort of knit gets very pilly, sweaters, things like that. Wools tend to get very pilly. Pills are small accumulations of textile fiber that has been shed off of the yarns. They cling to fabric by small bits of fiber that also cling to the yarn still. They can be fairly easily picked off and occur when the fabric is washed or otherwise agitated. So as you can see here, these little fuzzy balls, I hate to call them balls because they're not really round, they're kind of irregular clumpy shapes, but they kind of hover above the surface of the fabric. And again, they're from little excess bits of fiber escaping and getting tangled up on the surface of that fiber. Now, tightly twisted or high twist yarns are usually smoother, and so they are less likely to promote pilling in the fabrics they create. However, loosely twisted or low twist yarns are usually hairier. Remember that sort of microscopic picture? You saw all those little loose, hairy bits of fibers coming off those loose twisted yarns? Well, those loose bits of fibers encourage the production of pills. The twist of a yarn also affects the absorbency of the fabric. So if something can soak up a lot of water, it is called absorbent. Absorbency is an important property of fabrics, as a moderate ability to absorb moisture can keep us cool and wick sweat away. A high absorbency can be needed for things like towels and bath mats and bathrobes. So imagine when we need to dry something, either a dish or ourselves, we want something that will soak up water and take it away from whatever we are rubbing the surface of with that towel or bath robe, etc. However, on the other end of the spectrum, fabric that has low absorbency can be water resistant, or even waterproof if it is very low. So highly twisted yarns, or tightly twisted yarns, usually decrease the absorbency of a fabric. The yarns themselves are denser and have less area that can take up water. Likewise, the fabrics they create can be equally dense. Loosely twisted yarns or low twist yarns usually increase the absorbency of a fabric. The yarns are fluffier and have air pockets that water can be absorbed into. The fabrics they create are also more absorbent. So again, think back to that picture. One was very tightly twisted, so not a lot of water can be held in there. Think of the loose twisted one and all that space in between those fibers. That can suck up and hold water really well. And again, that ability keeps us cool, keeps sweat wicked away, or makes for a very efficient towel. The twist of a yarn also affects the strength of fabric. The strength of a fabric can refer to a few things. It can describe the long-term durability of a fabric, which measures how well a fabric can last against rubbing, washing, stretching, etc. So again, that's just how long is that fabric going to last before it starts to wear away, it starts to pull apart, so on and so forth. Strength can also refer to its tensile strength, which is how much weight or force is needed to snap a thread or fabric. So basically the difference between these two definitions is time. Strength over a long time, durability. Strength over a short time, tensile strength. Clothing and items that are going to see a lot of use, like clothing specifically made for different types of labor, like work clothes, even workout clothes, but anything that's going to be rubbed, stretched, moved, be, sort of rubbing up against different things, might snag on different things, be sort of pounded or pulled by different things. general wear and tear. But items that will see a lot of that need to be made out of strong fabrics. Tightly twisted or high twist yarns are usually stronger and make stronger fabrics. Loosely twisted yarns or low twist yarns usually decrease the strength of a fabric.